Hey, what's up? Welcome back to another edition of the Mandatory Live. We took a week off, but we're back. Thank you so much if you've already been rocking with us. If you haven't, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button because that helps the channel grow. And we're also on the audio side as well. So if you got a couple of minutes, leave a rate and review because that obviously helps the channel grow as well. But we will be having a post-fight show for Ennis and Stanionis, and we are going to do that fight preview as well. So stay tuned for that. But Bryan, lots to get into. So why don't we just get right into it? Because we said we weren't going to take too much time for this show. And I am PK13. Thanks for rocking with us this morning. He already says good morning, guys. Good friend of the show there. Bryan, I think one of the biggest news to come out this week is the fact that Dmitry Bivol he vacated his WBC Light Heavyweight title. And that means that, yes, he is willing to fight Artur Beterbiev for a third time. But this also means something different for a guy like David Benavidez, because that was the fight that they were trying to make, Bivol and Benavidez. With Dmitry Bivol vacating, this changes up things. So your thoughts on Bivol doing this?
Yeah. So Dmitry Bivol gives up, I think, by the way, the best looking title in boxing. To me, like if I'm just ranking aesthetically, like which belt I would want the most, WBC, just the green, something about it just looks the best. Kind of reminds me of the big gold title in wrestling, which is formerly the NWA Championship, later WCW, later WWE World Heavyweight Championship. Just looks great. There's also reports of Bivol rejecting like an $8 million purse to fight David Benavidez allegedly. But we'll see. Regardless, what we know is that he's vacating the title. And there's a couple of different things here. One, we know that Dmitry Bivol wants to finish off the trilogy, which, if you're a boxing fan, if you're a boxing reporter, of which there aren't many of anymore, if you're a consumer of the sport, like you should appreciate that move, because I think everyone deserves a trilogy, should want to see a trilogy, even if you're like me and think Dmitry Bivol actually won both of the first two fights, albeit very narrowly. Then yes, like we deserve a part three. Let's get the rubber match and let's see who's the best between Dmitry Bivol and Artur Beterbiev. The thing I don't like about this, Shantelle, is not what Bivol did, but I don't like when mandatories get enforced in a selective way. I understand having David Benavidez be the interim light heavyweight champion. I think we have too many interim champions, but in this case, it actually does make sense because this is an ongoing trilogy over the course of a year plus or whatever it is at this point. But I think you have to keep David Benavidez as the interim for one more fight before forcing it. Like, don't force it now. You know there's going to be a trilogy. Why strip or why try to force Bivol to fight Benavidez? Like, just let him do the Beterbiev fight, and then you have the interim champion fight the champion. Like, there is when you could be like, all right, Bivol, now that you've beaten, or all right, Beterbiev, now that you've beaten, Bivol, or whatever the case may be, whoever wins, you could be like, all right, you're next in line, Dave Benavidez. I don't get why you're trying to force this now just to make him a champion. Like, it just seems like political boxing bullshit. And I understand the desire to have an interim champion get the shot, but why now? Why can't he just wait one more fight if we know what the fight is going to be and we know it's a trilogy anyway?
Yeah, so this is the thing. I feel like everyone really, really wanted that David Benavidez and Bivol fight after Bivol was able to avenge that first loss against Beterbiev, and we know that he was going to take some time off. And so we thought, hey, there might be some different possibilities for this. But this is the right move. And as you know, Dmitry Bivol and Artur Beterbiev have a ton of respect for each other, right? These two will always be tied together. And when you take a look at the fights, it's 1-1. It only makes sense, Bryan, to make the trilogy fight. And as much as the ratings weren't as big as I expected, as large as I expected, if you're a boxing fan, you want the third fight. And also, they're both sneakily getting old. And if they wanted to, Bryan, they wouldn't even have to fight a young guy like David Benavidez. None of them would have to do it. Like, let's be serious here. They could either move up or not even fight David Benavidez and walk off into the sunset? Because isn't Dmitry Bivol like 36 years old or something?
Yes, and you actually just triggered something in my head. Like, okay, is the WB? I don't think this is a good justification,
Yeah,
but is the WBC mandating this because they think after the trilogy, both of them are probably going to be just done? Because
I
that's
think it's
entirely possible.
I think it's a pretty good chance, but I also think that, for example, let's say Dmitry Bivol beats Artur Beterbiev again. I do think that that's a massive fight that you could put in the States because David
Hmm.
Benavidez, what does he do? He does sell tickets.
He does. Yeah.
People like seeing him fight, and that could be a big fight in Vegas. Whether it's Bivol or Artur Beterbiev, I think that's a massive fight, Brian, because I think whoever wins will have the opportunity to either stay in the division or even possibly move up. Like there is possible factors in this third trilogy fight, but I think the third trilogy fight makes the most sense. But also, I think people at this point they're seeing that rise of David Benavidez and they want to see more. And there's some really good possibilities here of different fights that we could get, but the trilogy fight makes the most sense, and both of those guys could sail off into the sunset. I wouldn't be surprised if Artur Beterbiev did. I mean, he's going to be like 40 years old, is he not?
I think he's 40 already.
Oh my god! So he might be 41 soon. So I don't know because he still looks like he has it. Like he hasn't lost it yet. But you never know when father time catches up. But both these guys don't really have anything else to prove at this point in their careers. And I'm not just writing them off, but I do think they have more to lose if they fight a young guy like David Benavidez, Brian, especially if it's like in Vegas or something like that, where David Benavidez is going to have the crowd, he's going to have the judges. So that makes things a lot more different. And if I'm Artur Beterbiev or Dmitry Bivol, if I would have done what Bivol did too, I would have vacated. Like I'm going to go fight
Yes.
Beterbiev and
Yes.
make money again. I'm
So
not
I was
going to
going to
fight a
ask
young
that.
guy.
I
Yeah,
was
I'm
going to
not going to.
ask you, like, would you have done the same thing? Would you have chased the trilogy fight as opposed to David Benavidez? Because I would have.
I think, and I also think the trilogy fight is more historic. Like, yeah,
Thousand percent.
of course, you could go ahead and fight David Benavidez and possibly win, and that be massive. Like beating a young guy that's on the rise, is becoming a superstar, possibly becoming a face of the sport as well. Because I think David Benavidez has all of those attributes. However, the trilogy fight, like you think about trilogy fights in boxing, that is legendary stuff. And I think in this era, the modern era of boxing, this is one of the fights that we're gonna look back on in like 20 years and be like, hey, those three fights were dope. Like I could go back, watch the first one and be like, I thought Bivol won, and go back, watch the second one, and you see Bivol avenge it. And then the third one, I still think that's a 50-50 fight. I still think Beterbiev could come back and win that fight, Brian.
Yeah, and I think like with me, if you're talking about legacy, and I think it's kind of hacky to bring this up at times, but I think these are two guys who care about that. I think they care about that more than money. And I think they both look at the other one being Dmitry Bivol and Artur Beterbiev in this case. And they look at each other and they're like, yo, like we have to finish this, you know? They're also both from Russia. Like there's got to be some sort of like there's a lot here that comes with it. And I think they know that they have to shout out Cody Rhodes because it's WrestleMania season. Finish the story, and ultimately David Benavidez, like, yo, step aside right now. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, congrats on getting a couple nice wins at light heavyweight and being an interim champion, but you know now you're an email champion because they just kind of gave you the title, which congratulations, but okay, like you're gonna have to wait your turn. And it's fine. Go fight somebody else. Have a stay busy fight. And if the winner of this trilogy is mandated to fight David Benavidez next, I think that they will. I think maybe Beterbiev is a better candidate to retire because of his age, whether he wins or loses. Whereas I think Dmitry Bivol, like he might look at Dave Benavidez and be like, man, like I could become one of the light heavyweight goats if I pull this one off next. So like there's a conversation to be had there, but I think David Benavidez just has to wait his turn, and he beat David Morrell, who we're both high on. Fight somebody else, like defend against somebody else in the light heavyweight division who's highly ranked. In the meantime, while you wait to get your shot, what I think could be, early next year, spring or something like that, because this trilogy fight might not be until later in the year. And if you look at the WBC rankings right now, because Dave Benavidez is the champion, because they stripped Dmitry Bivol, the number one contender is actually Artur Beterbiev, which is really funny. And we obviously know Artur Beterbiev is going to fight Dmitry Bivol next. So then after that is still David Morrell, which is interesting. And then you have like Albert Ramirez, Alexander Vosdik, Joshua Buatsi, Connor Wallace, Willie Hutchinson, Anthony Yard. Like a couple of, like, we've seen him fight Vosdik already, so no, I don't want that. But
Yeah.
there's a couple of dudes here where I'm like, okay, like maybe that would be like an interesting stay busy fight. And I think if you're David Benavidez, like you should also be looking to get a knockout in your next bout. Callum Smith is also an interesting name. He's the interim champion with the WBO. So like
And
there's a
let's
bunch of
give
fights
props to Callum Smith because he took care of Buatsi. And remember all the hype behind Buatsi? I was pissed off. He messed up my parlay. And Callum Smith came in and I was like, dude, I honestly think we should give Callum Smith some props. And you know me, I never really give people across the pond mad props. But he has been in the ring. I mean, like, let's be serious. Like, I'm not the biggest fan of UK fighters, right? My favorite style of boxing is Mexican style boxing. Like, it's pretty obvious on this show. But I do think Callum Smith deserves some props because he's been in the ring with some guys. And just when you thought that maybe he was on the latter end of his career, he beats a Joshua Buatsi in a very convincingly fashion. Like, this was a fight where I'm like, I never want to hear Buatsi's name again for a little minute.
Can I give you the fight that I want the most, actually, that I just thought of it for Dave Benavidez? Like,
Yes.
So Anthony Yard.
I knew you were going to say Anthony Yard. That's a good fight, dude.
I know he's only ranked 8th, although it may move up because he's fighting Lyndon Arthur actually in a couple weeks. I think that's on the Conor Benn.
Which, by the way, that's a sneakily good fight. Like, Lyndon Arthur can fight. Like, he's not a scrub, dude. Like, that's actually a very good
fun
fight.
I would like to see the winner of that fight, David Benavidez, the most, because I want David Benavidez to be in an action fight in this weight class, this specific weight class. David Morrell was not going to be that. David Morrell, I didn't think remember, I talked about how disappointed I was in his strategy, but ultimately I still think the world of David Morrell's talent, and I think
David Morrell's going to be good. I think he's going to be good for a long time, and we're going to look back at that loss and, like, it's one of those things where you can't look at a loss on a fighter's record. We got to go back to how it was before Mayweather because Mayweather ruined it for everybody, yo. Like, let's be serious. I wish Morrell had a different game plan. But I think when it came to experience, Benavidez just had more. But shout out to those guys for making that fight in their primes. Like, we're getting good fights. And so that was one of the ones I loved. I would love to see Benavidez against a guy like Callum Smith, who has lots of pedigree, been in the ring with a lot of guys, and can win a fight. Like, he would make things tricky for David Benavidez. So usually UK fans who watch the mandatory, I'm giving your props. Callum Smith right there. Okay, like
Callum Smith would be the best fight for Beterbiev, but for just as a consumer though, a consumer. Like,
of course.
So Anthony Yard got knocked out by Sergey Kovalev years ago. This fight with Lyndon Arthur is obviously, for people who don't know, it's a rubber match. Lyndon Arthur won the first one, a split decision. It was kind of controversial from what I recall, and then Lyndon Arthur got knocked out in a rematch a year later in 2021. So this is the third fight between the two. And here's the other curious thing for me when looking at the light heavyweight division. Of course, we thought we were going to be quick on this segment, but we're not. We're about 20 minutes in. We just love talking about this stuff. So Anthony Yard is 8th right now. Willie Hutchinson is 7th. He just lost. Joshua Buatsi's 5th. He just lost. It's like, if Vosdik is 4th, he lost Dave Benavidez already. And I feel like if Anthony Yard beats Lyndon Arthur, he should jump up into that top 5 in this weight class. And sign me up for August, September, David Benavidez versus Anthony Yard if Anthony Yard wins that. Just stylistically, it'd be a really fun fight. And I wouldn't say safe opponent, but like he'll be a minus 600, 500 favorite or something along those lines. Try to get a knockout in this weight class against a guy who's been stopped before. And then hopefully you get the winner of the trilogy fight.
Yeah, I think actually that's good matchmaking Very,
I
very good
swear, I'm gonna,
matchmaking.
I'm gonna, I'm gonna. At some point, if this shit doesn't work out, we'll go the promotional route.
We're doing
Like,
mandatory promotions. We've talked about it. We got big dreams, y'all. It's not just the show. It's gonna pop off sometime. You guys leave comments as well. Let us know who you want to see David Benavidez fight. But also, if you were Dmitry Bivol, would you have vacated as well? Drop your comments below. Let us know because we will be reading them. And also, just tell us what you think about the Beterbiev Dmitry Bivol trilogy fight and if you're excited for that.